Welcome to Edge Insider. I'm your host, Matthew Wexler, and you are watching Edge Media Network, your go-to source for LGBTQ+ news and entertainment. Today, we welcome Michelle Fridman, Minister of Tourism for Mexico state of Yucatan. Big things happened for the LGBTQ+ community in Yucatan just a few weeks ago, which we are going to touch upon, as well as get some insider tips on what you can't miss on your next trip to this fantastic state. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us for a terrific conversation about Yucatan and Mexico. I have vacation FOMO. I've just been dying to travel, and Mexico is one of my favorite spots. So I was delighted to learn about the recent advancements and changes in terms of same-sex marriage in Yucatan specifically. And I'm just going to add that to my list of places that I desire to go. I was wondering, for our viewers that are watching, if you can just give us some context maybe in terms of LGBTQ+ rights in Mexico. I know same-sex marriage has been legal since 2015 across the country, but what does the recent change in the state of Yucatan's constitution mean?
Well, thank you, Matthew, for this invitation. I'm glad to talk with you and your audience. And of course, we're all craving for tourism. And a good news is that Yucatan has been a COVID-friendly destination even before COVID. I mean, we are an authentic destination with thousands of years of history. If you go back in time, you'll realize that 64 million years ago, when the big rock, the meteor, fell in our Earth, creating the world as we know it, it happened in Yucatan. But we also have thousands of years of history with the Mayan culture, which is a living culture that remains among us, and many other influences that had created a very, very rich destination. And now we're very happy because just as you mentioned, the Congress in Yucatan had voted yes for same-sex marriage, and that's a great news because Yucatan has been a very interesting destination for weddings and for romance, and now we can also offer weddings to the LGBT community.
Yeah, it's terrific. And I know that that passage also included a ban on conversion therapy in the state, which is hugely important for our community as well. So great news to see those developments happening in the state. And it's really part of ongoing developments, I think, in terms of LGBTQ+ travelers and residents as well. It's part of a bigger initiative with the country. I'm curious about this letter of intent that I read about that was signed a couple years ago between your Secretary of Tourism and the International LGBTQ+ Association, IGLTA, and this consulting firm, Queer Destinations. What was the whole sort of impulse and lift behind that?
Well, we understand the LGBT market as a very, very important market for us, not only for tourism, but in many other ways. So we wanted to work with the leaders of this market in terms of training our products, in order to offer a better service to this community. We understand we have more things to learn about how to offer services to this specific market. So we want to become better, to be a more welcoming destination for the LGBT community, and that's why we signed this letter of intent.
Right, and so I guess that means working with IGLTA. For those who aren't familiar, IGLTA is an international organization that is business to business, but also more recently becoming more consumer forward in terms of its integration and awareness and operation to sort of make sure educating from the inside out, I guess. So is this letter of intent the idea that we're going to train tour operators, hotels, restaurateurs, business owners, so they sort of really understand and have an awareness of the community?
Not only IGLTA, but also other associations such as Queer Destinations. We have asked them for help in order to educate our suppliers chain, because we want to, as I just mentioned, to become a more welcoming destination. We're a fascinating destination, and currently we receive a lot of LGBT visitors from very different places, because they want to experience what Yucatan has to offer, which is very, very unique and rich. But now we want to understand how to become better for this market.
Right, right, which is a great segue, because I have not been to Yucatan, and I just would love for you to carry us through. I mean, we only have so much time, but sort of some of the greatest hits of Yucatan. There's so much to explore. I guess, can we maybe start with the capital of Merida, which I know has a pretty strong American expat community. I know people who live or live part-time in Merida, but what is the city like? What's the vibe? What's the energy?
Well, Merida is amazing. I mean, 2019, we received the award as the best small city in the world by Condé Nast Traveler. And that's just one example of many awards that we had received. First of all, Merida is probably one of the safest destinations in the world. It is ranked right behind Quebec City as #2 in the whole continent. So it is the safest city in Mexico, and one of the safest in the whole world. It is also a city with a lot of history, but very trendy and contemporary. So you get to see this mixture, this blend of the Caribbean, the European influences, the Mayan, the Yucatecan traditions in one city that is a colonial city with very nice boutique hotels with an amazing design, these huge mansions from the time when Yucatan was so wealthy because of the producing of sisal, the sisal that was exported to Europe. And that's the main reason why Yucatan for many years was even more connected to Europe than to the rest of Mexico. So you'll find that Yucatan is a destination that's completely different from the rest of Mexico in terms of food, of traditions, of architecture, of clothes. I mean, it is completely different. And you'll find in Merida, our capital city, this mixture of the contemporary and the history. I mean, being a destination with so many years of history.
Yes, yes. What is the size of the population, just so people have a sense when you say small city, what that means for people visiting?
I'd say probably 1 million. Yucatan gathers around 2 million, and Merida is the biggest city with 1.2 million people.
Compared to, do you know how many people are in Mexico City, for example?
Well, that's huge. I mean, you're talking about probably more than 15 million. I'm not sure at the moment, but it's one of the biggest city in the world. But Merida is just amazing, and we have a world-class infrastructure, so you get to find amazing connectivity with hubs such as Miami, Houston, Dallas. We have a flight with Tijuana, which is San Diego, through the CBX. We have Oakland in the Bay Area of San Francisco. But we also have nice roads, so you can easily stay at a beautiful boutique hotel or in a luxury hacienda outside the city and have daily excursions to the archaeological sites, to our beaches, which are amazing. Imagine these Caribbean color beaches full with flamingos. We have a lot of nature as we remain as a sustainable destination. We have a lot of jungle, cenotes. I don't know if you're familiar with the cenotes, but we have over 3,600 cenotes in Yucatan.
Wow, wow, so much to explore. I'd love to touch a little bit more specifically on the history and the culture, as you mentioned. I know there's so much to discover in terms of Mayan culture. I think Americans might be perhaps more familiar with the ruins outside of Tulum in Quintana Roo, but what are the sort of the highlights of the archaeological sites in Yucatan?
I'm glad you just mentioned Quintana Roo, because Quintana Roo is our neighbor, but many people keeps confused about Quintana Roo and Yucatan.
Different state.
People very often say, I'm going to the Yucatan. And yeah, the Yucatan is the peninsula, which gathers 3 states, Quintana Roo, Yucatan, and Campeche. But we are in the heart of the peninsula as Yucatan state. And actually Chichen Itza, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world, and it's very famous, it's in Yucatan, and many people doesn't know that. So they book they spend 1 whole week on an all-inclusive, huge, massive resort in Cancun, but they are taking daily excursions to Yucatan. So they're going to Chichen Itza, and once they arrive to Chichen Itza, 1.5 hours later, driving, they realized that they could spend 1 or 2 nights in Valladolid, which is a colonial city right next to Chichen Itza in Yucatan, or go to the Pink Lakes, which is in the coast area of eastern Yucatan, where you'll find a huge pool that it's pink because of the salt, and it's full with flamingos. Or you can see other archaeological sites such as Ekbalam or Mayapan, or you can go to Izamal, which is another colonial city that's all painted in yellow. There are so many places to visit in Yucatan, and it's just that people doesn't know that because they keep confused, getting confused between Cancun and Yucatan.
Right. Which is why I'm so glad you're with us. We're going to dispel the confusion and get people to Yucatan, not only in Merida, but the other great destinations to see throughout the state. You mentioned briefly the cenotes, and I know there's caverns and grottos to explore. Can you sort of explain what a cenote is for those that might not be familiar with them, and what kind of activities might be included to go visit?
Remember, I told you about this big rock, the meteor that fell in Yucatan, extinguishing the dinosaurs and creating the world as we know it. When that happened, many things happened, and one of those things were a whole system under the earth that's a water system of caves and sinkholes. Those are the cenotes, are sort of pools, natural pools. Some of them are open to the air, and some of them are just under the earth, and you can swim on them, and you can dive those cenotes, and those are sacred to the Mayans. So there are many communities in which you can go and spend time with the Mayans. Actually, we have this program that it's called Mayan Villages, in which you can go and have experiences, authentic experiences with the Mayans, and also go and visit their cenotes and swim on the cenotes, or maybe take a zip line, or use a bike around the cenote. It's pretty fun, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous. And all you need to do is go on Instagram, and you can see hundreds of people who are hashtagging and creating this incredibly vibrant imagery from the cenotes throughout the region. It sounds like a great day trip, but for me personally, I always think of food when I travel. That's first and foremost, the first thing comes to my mind. And I have to admit, I have been binge watching Patty Simich's Mexican Table series, which are 9 seasons. And each season she goes to a different state. And one of the states, I think I just watched a couple weeks ago, an entire season that was filmed throughout Yucatan. And I was just amazed at some of the flavors and ingredients that she discovered. What are some, we're familiar generally with Mexican cuisine, but I know that Yucatan has sort of distinct ingredients and dishes. What might some of those be?
Well, remember I told you Yucatan is different from the rest of Mexico. It happens also with the food. The food is one way to explain this rich history of Yucatan, because it blends the Mayan ingredients and techniques with the colonial and European ingredients and techniques, with the Caribbean, with the Latin, with the Mexican. So it creates a very different culinary scene from the rest of Mexico. So you'll find, as an example, the cochinita pibil. That's very Yucatecan. The cochinita pibil is pork buried with Mayan spices and cooked under the earth, and then you can have the taco of cochinita, and you can have that on a Mayan village, on a small town, in the market, in the streets, or you can go to a fine dining restaurant which is award-winning. You'll find a very diverse gastronomy, and probably one of the best in the world. Mexican is one of the 4 best gastronomies in the world according to the UNESCO. And Mayan, I'd say, Yucatecan is one of the best in Mexico. We have the cochinita pibil, papazules, we have the lime soup, we have the chile habanero, which is from Yucatan, the achiote that it's a seed that's used to paint some of the food.
Right, the really vibrant red paint. You order it and it sort of comes in a block, right? And then you can mix it with citrus for marinades.
Yes, you can have that to marinate the food. There are so many dishes that are Yucatecan, and that's again because of the blend of these different cultures and ingredients. As an example, there's a dish that it's called the stuffed cheese, and that's Hollandaise cheese, stuffed with meat and Mayan spices. And that's because for many years, when the ships used to go from Yucatan to Europe, bringing the sisal, those ships used to come back with cheese. So we have a lot of cheese in our recipes.
Yes. And I always wonder because, and I was just learning this recently, that depending on where you are in Mexico, either corn or flour tortillas are more popular. So in Yucatan, what is the go-to tortilla? Is it a corn tortilla or a flour tortilla? Or does it depend on you just said yes,
corn,
both.
Corn tortillas all the time. I mean, the flour tortillas are from northern Mexico. So we cook with what the communities, what the Mayans are cultivating, and that's the corn.
Right, right. So let's talk romance, because that's how this whole conversation got started with the change to the Constitution. I was exploring a little bit your tourism website and decided if and when I ever get married, I think I want to get married in a hacienda because they're so gorgeous. So what is the history of haciendas? I know that, as you mentioned, many of them are really on the outskirts, but very close to Merida, right? So you could stay in Merida and then you could go to a hacienda. What's the hacienda situation like?
Oh, it's beautiful. I always say that many Yucatan haciendas are sort of the European castles. They're so beautiful. And that's just because, as I just mentioned, during many years, this connection between Europe and Yucatan was so strong that many of these historical haciendas where people used to produce the henequen, the sisal fabric, they brought a lot of elements from the architecture in Europe. So you'll get to see majestic haciendas, and most of them are open to the public, either as hotels or places for weddings or just museums. So you can go and visit many haciendas inside Merida and throughout all the state. And as you just mentioned, Yucatan is so easy to drive from one place to another. It is safe. We have a worldwide infrastructure, so you can drive easily. And you can go visit different haciendas, stay one night or 1 week at an hacienda and to learn the history of that hacienda.
Yeah. They look absolutely beautiful to me. In terms of the actual wedding ceremony, are there certain traditions, or if I or a happily soon to be married couple was planning a wedding, are there certain Mexican or local traditions that they might want to consider incorporating into the ceremony?
Well, we have different, as an example, you can go to a Mayan priest. I don't know if that's the correct name, but you can ask one of them to be part of the wedding. You can go on the traditional religious ceremony. We have amazing companies, amazing wedding planners who knows every little secret about weddings. We have had even weddings under the water on a cenote. So you can imagine how strange can things become.
Yeah. I'm not sure that would be on my list to do, but I can imagine have some other kind of cultural incorporation into my imaginary future wedding. Well, thank you so much for chatting us. What are the best online resources to start exploring? I'm a tourist and I want to hop on a direct flight to Merida, which is amazing. Yes. Yeah, where can I start to find some details in it?
You should definitely surf our website, yucatan.travel. You'll find a lot of information regarding our 6 touristic regions, our segments, the seasons of the year. We have a planner inside the website. We have this new campaign that it's called 365 Days in Yucatan, in which you'll find one daily experience if you want to spend 1 year in Yucatan. Wow. And it is a very interesting and friendly website. And of course, the connectivity that you just mentioned makes everything so simple, because we have direct flights with Miami, Toronto, Houston, Dallas, Oakland, different places in Mexico, but also we have 30 minutes away from our border is the Cancun's airport, and that's the best connected airport internationally speaking in Mexico. So you can do the whole circuit. You can land in Cancun and take off from Merida, or the opposite.
Right. Terrific. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on Edge. It was great learning more about Yucatan. My palate is wet to go explore and learn so much more about the state and the region.
Great, Matthew. It was a pleasure being here with you, and we will be waiting for you and everybody in Yucatan.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Edge Insider. For the latest LGBTQ plus news and more, tune into Edge Media Network and follow us on social media. And be sure to check out our live conversation series, On the Edge, streaming on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. Margaret Cho joins us on September 21st, followed by LGBTQ plus wedding planner Jason Mitchell-Kahn on October 5th. Remember, your LGBTQ plus insider news is only a click away when you're reading or watching Edge Media Network.